Welcome back, people. It is Wake Up Woodward, live at Edgewood Country Club. All of our broadcasts today that are broadcasting from here. Wake Up Woodward, Big D Energy, Armani and Edwards, all brought to you by Mad Packs and Loom Cannabis, live at Edgewood Country Club. It's the tee-off for a kid again. Just want to read this really quickly. This says, thank you for helping provide never thought possible adventures for families raising children with life-threatening conditions. A Kid Again adventures are cost-free outings held year-round so families can set aside their worries and enjoy carefree time again. So shout out to A Kid Again organization giving illness a time out. Anytime that we can be involved with these types of events that are going to benefit people in need, I'm grateful for it. We've been at a lot of these, and through the years, the one common thread beyond it just being at a golf course has been the fact that there are people that are benefiting from this. And that, to me, is what it's all about. So shout out to you guys for staying tapped in, for hitting that like button, and helping to get the awareness out of what's going on here today. And you guys already know, golf season. So pretty soon it's going to be at least one or two of these a week, and it's going to be – I can't wait. Last year we got to do the Kirk Gibson Foundation. And be able to hear about how he's impacting the lives of people, and the fact that a couple of us had some personal connection with what his organization was doing, because my grandma was dealing with some of the same things he was with dementia and Parkinson's and such. So it's cool to be involved in this stuff.
Absolutely. Love being here. Love golf season. It's going to be fun.
You know what? Almost as cool. Detroit Pistons.
Hey,
they're a real question. Is it not about – how are they going to pull themselves out of the basement? I'm talking about the basement of the basement. They were in a cellar, bro. 17 wins and then a historically bad low 14 wins. But we already know this. From one historically bad season, they followed up with a historically good season. The first team to go 14 wins to the playoffs. The first team to triple their win total over two back-to-back full seasons. That's the Detroit Pistons, led by Trajan Langdon, led by J.B. Bickerstaff, led by Tom Gores having to go and erase a lot of mistakes and resetting the culture of this team on the fly, built around some of the young talent they have here. And Trajan Langdon, at his season-ending press conference, talked about the direction of the squad. And a lot of people believe that it's going to tend towards relying on what you have with these young players and augmenting around them rather than going out there and getting that splashy signing.
This is tough because all of a sudden the East, and I know the Pistons don't have a chance this year, but there's a chance that it becomes very wide open moving forward. And for the taking, we'll see what happens with the Celtics. We'll see how much the Pacers continue to grow and improve. But the Pistons should be in the mix and moving forward for hopefully many years. And the question is, as Kool-Aid kind of paraphrase from what Trajan Langdon said, is do they move forward with the young guys, kind of continue to grow and develop, or do they make a splashy signing? The good news with this Pistons team is I think I'm going to be okay with either for this first offseason, because I think they've given themselves a chance to be like, no Jaden Ivey for more half the season, no Jaden Ivey or beef stew for pretty much the entire playoffs. Mm-hmm. With those two back and healthy, with another year of growth, Asar Thompson getting an offseason instead of recovering from blood clots, there's reason to believe that this team can contend for like a top 4 seed, can make some noise in the playoffs next year, even if they don't make that splashy trade or signing. There's certainly reason to believe that. However, I do think Trajan should keep his phone really, really close, because if there's an offer that he can't refuse, I wouldn't mind them taking that either. Because like I said, the East could turn out to be wide, wide open as it's looking right now.
Yeah, and honestly, the thing that you have to ask yourself is, what's the best way to build around Cade? We were kind of talking about this before the show. Is it the Nikola Jokic way? You put some really good, highly talented players around him who aren't quite at that all-star level yet, but you know that they're going to give you some great contributions like Jamal Murray, like MPJ and others. Or do you go the route of going and surrounding him with high-end talent that can make those all-star teams? You look at guys like Jason Tatum. You look at guys like Donovan Mitchell, and they both have all-stars on their squad. Is that sustainable enough? You look at Pascal Siakam, though. He's another one who he made the all-star team. Nobody else on this squad made the all-star team. Is Cade Cunningham, is that the right approach? Because the more and more that I'm looking at it, the more and more I'm seeing the type of success and how parity is starting to be restored to the NBA, is the more I'm believing that Cade Cunningham is the type of player who can elevate the type of talent that you see around Pascal Siakam and Nikola Jokic because of the fact that they're everything players. They go out there and they affect the game in so many different ways. And for Cade, on both ends of the court. What we saw this year, because before when we were talking about the splashy signing, it was to accelerate things. We said, look, we're wasting Cade right now, and he's getting no help from anybody. We were wondering, can Duren actually average a double-double? Can Isaiah Stewart average a double-double? These are legitimate questions we were asking just a year ago. Think about that. And this was the best of his help. Can Ivy and Cade, can they coexist? Because we had never even seen it for like 12 games, and Ivy was coming off of the bench during that time. So it's like there were so many different questions that we had entering the season when we were talking about go out there and do something splashy. But we were also saying this. This is one of the things that I continue to stand on. If this team was going to make the jump, like we saw with Orlando and some of the other teams, like we saw with Houston, it was always going to be because these young players were the ones that stepped up. I believe that they have to churn out, not just Cade. When you pick that high in the draft, when you go through what they went through and you tear it down that way, you're not just in this thing to come away with one star. You're in this thing to come away with at least 2 or 3 all-stars. And you got Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, who I do believe can make a great case if they take the necessary leaps forward. And we saw the definite talent on display. But they're the ones that are going to determine, in my opinion, what you do in terms of do you just marginally tweak around them, which we saw worked out to the tune of adding 30-plus wins to them, or do you have to go out there and get that solid secondary scorer that's going to go out there and can put up 30 on any given night?
God, that's so tough because
it would help them.
There's so many.
It takes away.
There's so many things that they can do to help build up this team. When you look at, you mentioned Jason Tatum, you also mentioned the Magic. I think a team we're forgetting about a little bit because they had horrible injury luck last year. I expect them to be better next year and not as hurt, although you can never tell.
I don't know. I think they're going to be back into the hurt thing. Their team is made up of players who wind up on that report more often than not.
We'll see. Hey, if they're out of the way, they're out of the way. But with the
see what I'm trying to do there.
with the Magic and with the Celtics, they legitimately have drafted multiple like all-star caliber players. With the Pistons, we don't know yet. I think there's a chance that Asar Thompson makes one down the road. I know Jaden Ivey was putting up the best numbers of his life before he unfortunately went down. We talk about Holland, Duren. You just never know. But there's also, when you talk about the Denver Nuggets, and this is something that I really, really want to hammer home to you guys, to everybody in the chat, to everybody on this show. One of the narratives about them that kind of gets on my nerves, and you see it perpetuated, the whole no all-star teammates thing. And this is why. Yes, Jamal Murray's never made an all-star team. Yes, Michael Porter Jr. has never made an all-star team, but I'll start with a Jamal Murray. In the playoffs that the Nuggets won the championship, he averaged 26, 6, and 7 on 47, 40, 93 shooting splits. You could also
all-star worthy.
Well, that's the thing. Is there going to be somebody who proves to be a playoff elevator? Because Cade Cunningham's already proven that he can lead a team with this talent to the playoffs. And especially with them getting more healthy, if they kind of run it back, it wouldn't shock me if they won 50 or more games. Is there somebody on this team that can either be that all-star caliber player or be that just playoff demon? We don't know yet. But like I said, if the right move is there.
But you know what I like is this. When you look at Jamal Murray, when you look at MPJ, I don't hear them, whether they're saying it in their local media or not, I don't know. I don't hear them crying about if they're getting the looks or not. Let their fans do that for them. We just see them show up every year and continue to be consistent. And that's what you need out of these guys. You need these players to listen to J.B. Bickerstaff say you can be stars in your own lanes. That's a quote from him.
Yes.
That Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren both backed up. And he said that it helped them this year. Take that next step forward. We saw both of them. What did we see Stu? Were his stats like blowing anybody out the water as it relates to centers? No. But we saw him become a star in his own lane. What was something that followed him the entire season was that he's one of your best rim protectors in all of the NBA, one of your best paint protectors in all of the NBA. This wasn't just on heart. It wasn't just on hustle. It wasn't just on part 36. This was in his limited minutes. He was doing what other people who were getting 20 more minutes and 15 more minutes a night were putting up. And that was Beef Stu. You didn't want to challenge him. We saw him blocking even more dunks this year. Goodness gracious, man! Shout out to those guys. It's interesting how we came into the season questioning one thing, but now as it relates to these players, I'm going to say it. You have to have one of these or two of these guys step up to that level. And I believe that they could. When you looked at the trajectory that Jaden Ivey was on, right? I believe he was a guy that was become another one of those stars in his own lane. When the fourth quarter turned around, he seemed to just take a little bit more responsibility, especially when Cade Cunningham was getting blitzed. I implore people, go back and look at the offense and what they were doing. Jaden Ivey understood when the ball handler is being double-teamed, you have to show, and not just show, my coach would say it religiously, make yourself available. Find the open spot. Even though the play on the diagram shows a dot that has a straight line, you don't have to just run that straight line. And it seemed like with these players and some of the young players, as they're trying to learn to not be as historically bad as the organization has been, it seems like they're doing some things too robotic. Jaden Ivey was a player who, as a coach's son, he understands how to run the thin line, the straight line, but he also understands how to go off course just a little bit to be able to compensate for where the space may be or the defense may be. And that, to me, was something they were missing. We talk about they need a secondary ball handler, another facilitator. Think about the end of games, some of those fourth quarters. Jaden Ivey was hitting game-winning shots. Jaden Ivey was going into the fourth quarters and putting up buckets, man. And he was averaging about 17-4-4, a player who I do believe has that 18-5-5, maybe 25-5 in his future. But you're right. Whether that gets him to an all-star game or not, he has to get there if you're talking about not going out and making a splashy signing. You can't not make the splashy signing, not get that type of leap from some of your young players, and only marginally. Oh, yeah, definitely have one, brother. Appreciate you. You have to have the combination, man. Of these young players, I believe being who's going to be the stars. Think about the fact that Orlando Magic fans get to sit back and know Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero are two of your top under 25 players. There are some of your just top players in the league, period. We have to be able to say this next season. We have to be able to look out there and say it's not just Cade, but player Ivy, player Thompson, player Duren. One of those players has to take that next step towards being that guy that everyone says, yo, they got two young stars, whether they're making an all-star game or not.
You're right, and I could see, and I know this is like way too much in the future.
Talk to me.
I could actually see them build a team that is similar to the 2023 Nuggets. I know I just mentioned them. I mean, I'm not saying that Cade will ever get to the level that Nikola Jokic is now because he's the best player in the world, but what I count against
They are the only players averaging that stat line or better.
I mean, I'm not going to say that he can't. I'm very high on Cade, but just when you look at those teams that they had that year, or that team that they had that year, this is something that I could foresee. Like, I could foresee, I'm not saying that Jaden Ivey's ever going to shoot the ball like Jamal Murray did, but be that kind of fringe all-star, maybe an all-star that elevates in the playoffs. And then they also had super-duper playoff role players like MPJ and Aaron Gordon. Could I see that?
Oh, Aaron Gordon.
Yeah. Could I see that from like the Durens and the Asars and the Ron Hollands of the world? Sure, I could.
You know what?
Sure, I could.
I used to say that I thought that their makeup was similar to OKC because obviously the comparison between Cade and SGA.
Yeah.
But I actually believe that you're cooking here with the makeup of Denver, and that's what brought it up. That's what brought them to my mind is that, okay, we see a player who puts up similar stat lines. Obviously, they affect the game from different plays, different areas of the court, and Jokic is an MVP and a champion.
Yes.
He is bona fide proven to elevate his teammates. Cade Cunningham has proven that he can affect his teammates and elevate them a little bit, but we want to see if he can get it to that championship and playoff run level that we see out of Jokic. But that's what drew my attention there is no disrespect to MPJ and Jamal Murray because those guys, that's why I said they play at an all-star level. But you're going to have – that's why I think you have to get that in-house. I don't know how many times you go into, the offseason and you get a player like a Malik Beasley who did so well and outperformed what everyone thought, and even he didn't perform at an all-star level. Think about that.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't believe you're just going to go into free agency if you're trying to do some of the budget deals that it looks like that's being forecast. You're not going out there and just doing that. You're going to have to get that growth internally or you're going to have to gut these young players. One way or the other, it's going to come from the young players.
I mean, they could get like
either trading them or they got to get one of these guys to step up.
Yeah, I mean, they could be like the KCPs and the Bruce Browns were for that team. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, I'm making a big leap in saying that they're going to turn into the 2023 Nuggets. The point is that you see certain media outlets and even certain shows on this network take a hard stance and they've got to sign a guy now, or you see some that are like, absolutely not, let these guys grow. My point is that I don't really feel uncomfortable with either option. I think that they can heck of a lot more wide open than say it was when the Steph Curry and KD Warriors and the LeBron Cavs
East looking right now?
Right, yeah, they can do this thing as soon as next year. They can be real factors in this, because I'll tell you what. Would any of you be shocked if the Pacers or the Knicks go to the finals?
I wouldn't be shocked, not at all.
And that's the point. Like, the Pistons can do this next year. Maybe not win the title, but be real bona fide contenders if they go either route.
Because when we talked about in the regular season, we got bullish about the Pistons. That's why I always wait. Shout out Rod Beard, the legend. 20, 30 games in, you're able to see who's dysfunctional or not. That's something we started following. I told y'all see these dysfunctional teams. They're going to have a shot at 6. They're going to prove that they were 5th. They're going to finish at 6. And that's realistically what happened. And when you look at the playoffs, I think that you can apply some of the same metric. You're looking at some of these top seeds in the East who are not looking as formidable. And it's interesting because, remember, we were bantering some things behind the scenes when I was like, I don't know why, but I felt like the path was the Bucks and then the Cavs. I thought that would have matched up better for them. Shout out to Bray.
What's up,
The
guy?
GOAT, man. Go blue, bro.
What up?
What up, though?
What's going on? You guys are literally right around the corner from where I live. Finally, you come to the west side of town. You boys doing good talking about those Pistons?
Hey, talking about the Pistons, we talking about a splashy signing versus the necessity for them to get growth internally from guys like Jalen Duren, or Sar Thompson.
I think the best thing that they can do this year, talking about Trajan as well as JB, is don't leave room for thought. Whatever you believe in, whatever the process that got you from 14 to 44, who are we? Who are we? Being honest, I learned this from people talking about Brad Holmes. From 14 to 44, who are we? Let them cook until they can. I got to hit these links. I see you.
All right, brother.
Shout out Braylon Edwards.
The Edwards, man, the absolute GOAT. And you know what? He's right. At least to this point in it, Trajan Langdon has almost given himself a little bit of that trust in Trajan that it usually takes a couple years to get that. But this historic turnaround, I'm comfortable with the hands that this organization is left in and the path forward, to the point that I don't think that it's not outlandish. I thought I was being outlandish for thinking that this squad is in a good position. Out of the all dysfunction teams, you're looking at the tops of this. Pistons have a good chance to be a solid top 4 team next season.
Yeah, and
solidly in the East, that is.
Big Con 51. I think JB would have to call the doctor for 4 hours after this one. Steph Curry with Cade. Just imagine. I think Gold GSW are blowing it up this year. I mean, I would love that.
They would ask JB, sir, how long ago did you pop the pill? I ain't popped no pills.
No
I
pills.
still need your help,
It's
though.
been 8 hours.
All natural.
Come on, so you say all natural.
No, but I would all of a sudden turn into a Steph fan real quick if that happened. I'll just say that.
Really, hey, instantly we have to do a jersey bet. But you know what? If there's a year to do a splashy signing, it's crazy to see all these stars, these older stars now, who are going to be on the market. Kevin Durant, Zion Williamson. Oh, well, he's not older, but we understand that there's still some limitations there as it relates to if you bring him here. Giannis Antetokounmpo and others, man. Others. There's even some rumors and noise of other people that we'll bring it out in some weeks to come, maybe on the Wednesday show with Rod. But they're going to have an opportunity if they want to mortgage the future, or at least mortgage the now because their future's here. They're going to have an opportunity to do something if they want.
I was going to say, I mean, in these, I'm not quite willing to declare this now, but I think an interesting discussion maybe in the future is who would you be most comfortable with giving up? And obviously, I've staked my claim that I'm not mad if they don't do anything, but if they did, talking like OJ, if I did it, but like if I did it, but if if I did, that's if they did, that's something that I'm going to be really thinking hard about.
I want to have that conversation, not because I want to trade any of the young guys, because I believe in them, but I do believe the conversation is interesting because of how this goes. You only have, in my opinion, a couple players maybe, because you're not trading Cade, obviously.
Right.
Just a couple players that maybe will pique the interest of other teams, but they're the players that you want to add to, not get rid of. That's what makes this thing that much more intriguing because, I like Marcus Sasser and what he could potentially provide for them long term, but you're not trading. It's not like Marcus Sasser, Bobby Clinton, and Tim Hardaway is getting you one of these star
Absolutely.
players.
Those three.
That's where the conversation
Giannis.
gets interesting because for any of these guys, they're going to ask for a couple first-round picks, probably a couple young players too.
Yeah, and not those ones.
Oh, that's so steep.
The Asars and the Ivies of the world.
Yeah,
but
the Ivies, Asar, Jalen Duren, that's it. I don't think they're looking at anybody. I believe Ron Holland's another one you could potentially sell because of high potential, but I believe that teams are going to want to see him for another season.
Sure.
Go through the summer league, see him for another year to see exactly what type of player he could be.
Sure, and for the record, I think that Ron Holland would have had better numbers on a team where that was worse and he could have got more usage, but we see the role that he provided here, but I understand the trepidation for what he could be because we've already seen guys like Asar and Duren and
Golf season. I like it. Well, we also got our brother Matthew Broder, KG. Get well soon. Shout out to you as well, Woodward Ringside, for what you guys are doing. Boots on the ground, credentialed events. I know Justin hit some events as well. So this is awesome to see what Woodward Sports is doing. We got Cavassier Chase holding down sounds this morning. What up, though, brother?
Oh, hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, just hanging out here with my guy, JB. Just having a good time over here, looking at those donuts and that chipmunk. So, yeah. So looking forward to, diving into what's left over. And then, just going to be filling in for audio for Big D, so I'll be hanging around for a little bit longer. You guys get a little bit more of me sticking around, like I said. So
shout out.
Hey, and shout out, we got JB Smooth over there. He was holding down things in the TD space, and you guys don't understand at remotes. It gets way more difficult sometimes to even keep up with the chat. It gets way more difficult to keep up with all the different things that are going on over there in that TD space because it is different than the normal setup. But JB Smooth, one of the best in the game, and our MVP.
Oh my
What up, dog, JB?
Hey, what's going on, man? I just try as much as I can. Shout out to everyone in the chat for tapping in. Woodward Ringside, episode's out right now. Fast and Loose, me and Chase. We're recording another episode tomorrow. And I got to give a RIP to the great Sabu, who passed away yesterday. He's 60 years old, one of the legends of hardcore wrestling. So you will forever be missed. Rest in paradise, my guy.
Hey, shout out, man. Shout out. And Flannel Sam, the vet of the squad, vet of the network, Red Wings correspondent. Glad to have you back in the building, man. And overall, we're Pistons contributors as well.
Absolutely. Good to be back. Got some culture in Ireland, but now I am back here. And shout out to the Tigers tonight. Chance to get back on track for both them and Jackson Jobe. And let's all root for a big 0 for 4 from Mr. Alex Bregman. Can we agree on that?
Yes. Yeah, you don't want to see him do good anytime he plays the Detroit
He's having
Tigers,
a good
man.
year, though. Damn.
Having a great year, man. It's your boy Brandon Dent, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid, your credentialed Pistons reporter and writer for the network. Once again, live from Edgewood Country Club.